We are ready.
Okay, then. Let's get going. Welcome to the March 7th meeting of the CB6 Transportation Committee. My name is Gene Santoro, and I'm chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 7:02. Tonight, we are joined by Deputy District Manager Brendan Berth. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Now, as far as I'm aware, we have no one taking notes for tonight's meeting. Is that true, Brendan?
Yes, that is true. So we need a minutes taker.
Okay. I'm settling back to stand off the stampede. So are there any volunteers? Oh, come on, folks, don't make me beg. It's a pretty simple process, and tonight's meeting should be relatively quick and straightforward.
I'm not volunteering, but I just want to know, and Brendan can probably tell us this, who is the last person that has not done it? And B is obviously like she's got dispensation, but like seriously, who has not done it in the last 10 months?
If I interrupt, I see Ronnie's hand is raised. I don't know if that means
yes, I was raising my hand to volunteer.
Thank you, Ronnie. And Anne, please try to remember to raise your hand before you ask a question because the meeting is actually in progress, okay? Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Ronnie, for stepping up and taking the minutes. And now that we've accomplished that feat, we will have Brendan take the roll call. Take it away, Brendan.
Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. B doesn't.
B?
Oh, present. I'm sorry, didn't hear.
That's okay. Yeah.
No worries. Charles Fernandez.
Present.
Andrew Gross.
Present.
Phil's not here. Matt Roberts.
Present.
Gene Santoro.
Here.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Ann Sullivan.
Here.
Ryan Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present.
Ronnie White.
Present.
And James Wilson. Then we have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay. So the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office, and there it is appearing on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. I'm not seeing any hands. Brendan, do you see any?
I do not.
Okay, well, seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Now for the minutes from last month's meeting. They were also distributed ahead of time before the board office, by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand through Zoom. Okay, I don't see anybody. Brendan, do you see anyone?
I do not.
Okay, well then, seeing no objections, the minutes from the last meeting are adopted, and they will soon be available on the CB6 Fabulous website. Okay, the inevitable ground rules for our Zoom meeting. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. Some of you have a separate raise hand function on your screen. You can use that. If you still have technical difficulty, please click the chat icon and relay your difficulty. The chat function, however, should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us of any technical difficulty you're having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Lastly, we are required by executive order to create a verbatim transcript of this meeting. So please keep your questions succinct and germane to the discussion. Okay. So the first item on the agenda is Anton's draft resolution about outdoor street eating, dining, whatever you want to call it. So Anton, we're going to give you about 10 minutes for this end of the discussion. So please keep it on focus. But first, Brian, do you have your hand up about this or is it something else?
Are we jumping right into the discussion about the substance and structure of the reso? Or
No,
why
I
did
think
they have
Anton's gonna speak for a couple of minutes. Aren't you, Anton?
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay.
Please keep it brief, and then
All right.
all questions will be directed at him. I will call on you.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Okay,
Great.
Anton, you're on.
Great. Thank you, Gene. As many of you know, the City Council passed a resolution, I guess about Thursday before last, to make the open restaurant program a permanent part of the city's infrastructure. Right now, the second part of the program is starting to take place. That is the completion of the design engagement process and design guidelines for the open restaurant program. Now, I don't think an awful lot of people are against the open restaurant program if it's done right. There are issues that have to be addressed now. As you may know, the DOT is putting these guidelines together in conjunction with a number of other city agencies, and it's supposed to be done sometime in the spring of this year. Unfortunately, the community boards have little or no impact or input in the city council's resolution. So I think we should be making an impact now on the rules governing the open restaurant program. As you probably know, there are many negatives to the program aside from the positives. I think the problem is the current program, while it seems right, has not been enforced, and the guidelines just are not being taken seriously. Issues of vermin, garbage, noise, and the larger question of public space being used by private entities. Whether the city should be compensated for that or not, whether this should be a deposit in case any of these structures or situations are abandoned, that the city could take it down. Now, what I would like to accomplish, and we don't have to do this by this board meeting, general board meeting, but maybe the next one, is to think a little bit about what we would like our CB6 to be saying to the DOT and the other agencies involved as to what we feel is important to us as a community board and perhaps to other community boards in the city, both in Manhattan and in the outer boroughs. In fact, a couple of sessions I attended via Zoom when this was discussed, the outer boroughs had a very, very big problem with some of the proposed rules and some of the ways the city or the DOT was enforcing the rules that had been put in as part of this temporary program. I don't think what that means is that one size doesn't fit all. What works for Manhattan, maybe on the east side, may not work for the CB1, which has written a long resolution regarding what they would like to see in terms of having the open restaurant program parameters in their area. Those in Queens and the Bronx have their own thoughts too. I think the bottom line is that we have to make ourselves felt and known to the rule makers, and this is what we feel should be the way to go. I think one of the more important aspects of this is, for instance, in the licensing committee, when we get a liquor license application, we review it and we are able to make comments on it and whether we feel it should be renewed or new or denied. I think this type of situation should also be put to the appropriate committee of the various community boards so that we have a say in the application process if a restaurant or a bar would like to participate in the open restaurants program. So there are two parts to this. One, trying to get rulemaking to be cognizant of the various different issues that have been raised. And two, to ensure that the community boards have a say in the application process so that we're not inundated with some of the situations where we see. I think
Anton?
yeah.
Anton, thank you. I mean, I think I'm going to ask you to stop there because we got the basic gist. And
Right.
this, I should have said this before you spoke. I'm sorry. It only occurred to me now. What this is about is that Anton would like this resolution to be essentially scripted or at least vetted by not just the Obasa committee, but the licensing committee, but also land use and transportation.
Right.
So regarding that, that's why he's here. And so tonight, excuse me, let me.
Okay, Shine.
He's just presenting the reso. We can start to discuss it. If there are a lot of questions or a lot of discussion, we're going to roll it over to next month because I don't want this meeting to run too long for a lot of reasons. But that's the basic ground. That's the basic grounds that we're operating on. Is to discuss that. He's already presented it at land use, which is why some land use people are here. And so with that framework in mind, let's open it to discussion. First, let me call on committee members. Brian, you had your hand up even before the discussion, so go ahead. Please keep it on point, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to restrict this to two lines of thinking. The first thing is that the resolution as written, regardless of intent or regardless of what is going to be debated or voted on, the resolution as written essentially establishes the scenery for the discussion we're having and then goes right into a bunch of resolves that are not actually discussed or justified in the whereas part of the resolution. It is really important that if we are writing very prescriptive things that we're resolving, that we're presenting before the full board that we'll be voting on, that the whereas part of the resolution needs to describe what the issue is and why we think why our resolve thinks it's a good solution to the issue or how it addresses that. And I didn't see a lot of that for what went into very specific recommendations to the city for the structure and review parts of these things. We should absolutely form that, and they will be debated in a broader context, but that helps us form a resolution that we can all find consensus behind. From a transportation point of view, I'll just say that what these curbside boxes, what is currently proposed as far as what I'm hearing with no roofs on them and just dining platforms is a higher use of public space than just simply providing parking for 2 cars in front of a restaurant. And we do need to reduce auto traffic and car usage in the city. So this goes hand in hand with that goal, which we have discussed at Transportation Committee, in which we have some consensus around in this committee. Not total unanimous agreement, mind you, but consensus. So from a transportation standpoint, we don't really have, I don't really see anything that would need to be added to this resolution that we need in terms of resolving transportation issues. I do think it's a good idea, given that we're at the DOT committee, I think that our resolution should include some part or some sort of process or suggestion regarding what to do and what the process looks like with platform abandonment. It seems like there's only been a few local cases of this, but when there have been cases, they have sat around for longer than we'd like before DOT ultimately dismantled them and walked away. I think making the restaurateurs put out a deposit that they forfeit if the DOT hasn't come and dismantle it is a very well fit idea to the situation that we're describing, and would essentially eliminate the one substantive problem that I've seen with the program.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Ronnie, you were next.
I have to agree with a lot of the points that Brian made, and I, in general, overall, think it's a great idea, and even better that the other committees are involved to flesh it out and make it more holistic. I would like to see more on the materials that would be used. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. Anne, your hand was up. Anne?
I think Sandy was actually before me.
Oh, Sandy's not on the committee. First, I'm going through the committee
Okay,
members, Anne.
sorry, I'm looking at my hands. So I have a lot of issues, like sort of starting with the fact that have I seen this reso before? Did I miss something? Like, I don't know, but
You would have seen it at land use. I think you were there, but other than that, no, you didn't miss anything.
okay. This is an incredibly complex issue, and I would like to have it in a document that I could look at with more, more like examine more closely. I don't see anywhere here an issue that you and I have been discussing, which is what happens when restaurants close or are temporarily unused. And I think to me, the way you build a reso is you start with the resolved. Like you say, what is it that the board and the committee as a whole, what is it we want to achieve? And then you build your argument. And the resolved here, it looks to me like from what I saw before, is a pretty simple support. And I do not think that's where either this committee or this board is. So I think we need a more substantial conversation on this than maybe we can have right now. But all these things in some ways seem kind of they're all important, but it's not getting at the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Gotcha, Anne. Thank you. Okay, Andrew, you had your hand up.
Hey, Gene. We'll get to that, but this may be my last transportation meeting. So we'll get to that later, but this is a great issue to kind of end on for me, because I've said this before. Look, I took a read, and I have a fundamental issue, a deep issue with the idea of how public space is used for the private good. And to me, it doesn't matter whether it's an inch of sidewalk or an inch of road or a dirt path or a blade of grass. What is public, and what is private is private. And I don't think that the resolution, I don't think it sufficiently addresses the complex issue, for example, of how private businesses benefit from the outdoor space and how that gets addressed. Specifically, how real estate is evaluated. A restaurant that has an advantageous corner or an advantageous sidewalk space is now being basically treated differently for real estate purposes, right, than a restaurant that doesn't have that sort of that benefit that's out of its control. And so I think that the resolution, sort of as Anne mentioned, generally should reflect some of those complexities. And I think there has to be, as was said before, a more significant give back by the private sector to the public good for taking away the space. I know there's people here that hate cars and hate parking, and that's fine, but it is still the public's space. So I just think that there's not, it's just like eminent domain. I just don't think that I think if a judge looked at this, it would ultimately, if it went to the Supreme Court, it would ultimately be illegal because of that lack of resolving that particular issue. So you could address that broadly, you could address that narrowly, but I think that has to be addressed somehow, some way.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Okay, I don't see any other committee members' hands raised. So let's go to Sandy. Thank you, Sandy. Mike,
Sorry.
there you go.
I've got too many screens open here, but
I bet.
I just wanted to let you know that if you go to the city planning website, it says the zoning amendment does not change the process for how sidewalk cafes are reviewed by local community boards, but the areas where they can be considered now expands to all neighborhoods. So I think we want to address some of the, the sort of issues that we've talked about here, but we can basically take out that resolved. It is not, we are still going to be reviewing all of these applications. And I also would stress that maybe we shouldn't get too deeply into the weeds. Like, is it 36 inches high? Is it 38? We really want to address broad issues with this resolution. So those would be my two pieces of advice for moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Yes, and in fact, I think those are both good pieces of advice because, first of all, the actual community input sessions on this don't begin until summer, so or late spring at the earliest, and that's when community input will be heard on the broader topic of DOT and the alphabet soup of agencies that are putting together the various rules and regulations right now. And secondly, as Sandy and I have discussed, the likelihood of very specific directions like these being ignored by that greater gathering of the alphabet soup of agencies, the odds against them paying any attention to this are, let's say, extremely high. So what I would suggest we do is focus on the bottom line of things that we want. Certainly we want input. Certainly we want some significant input. We don't want things approved that we don't want at all, or that are shoddy or anything else. But as Sandy pointed out, 36 inches, 34 inches, 38 inches, easy access, using garbage bags. These are things that are going to be covered by the agency stuff. And if they're not, that's when we get to jump in starting in the summer. That's my understanding anyway. I think trying to do this up front in a reso is probably, it might be high-minded, but I think it might be kind of a mistaken way to go. Okay, I've had my say. I see Ann have your hand. Sorry about that. My mouth isn't working. You have your hand up again. Ann?
I completely agree with you, and I think we should address these issues at a high level. But I think it is valuable for us to put aside some time to say, like, okay, what are the issues? Like, and how do we deal with conflicts with other uses like bus stops or bicycle stations or whatever? And also, again, as you and I have discussed, like, how do we deal with, things that are restaurants that are no longer in existence? But yeah, like, how do we do that in a way that is equitable and we can present something as we have done in many other resos? And I think it is important to work across committees, but where we say, like, we support the idea of this, but these are our concerns. Like,
right.
That's, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I've got it. Okay, Anton, your hand is up, but I'm going to ask you to, this is going to be it because we do have NYU waiting to show us about the exciting developments on First Avenue in the 30s with the bus stop and construction.
Okay.
So we have to move on.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's input. Brian, unfortunately, we're breaking up, so I didn't get a lot of what you said. I wrote this before the city council approved the permanency of the program, so there's a little bit of a problem here. But the other thing is I am ready to take any kind of suggestions, send it through the board office, and I will redo this. Hopefully that it will be a little bit more towards the discussions we've had in the other committees, and perhaps bring it sometime in the future to the full board for discussion and for a final resolution.
Well, we'll roll over the discussion for our part until next month, because it sounds like there is actually going to be some lively discussion about parts of this. So we'll do
Sure.
that. You're welcome to come. And we'll pick it up there, because I mean, the NYU people are waiting and I don't want to keep them hanging for too long.
Okay.
So I'd like to move on, unless anybody else has any other pressing questions about this right now.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time, effort, and suggestions.
Okay, thank you, Anton. Okay. Now moving along to the ever popular NYU bus stop, which apparently has been moved without anybody being told in advance. So there's the fait accompli for you. It's done. That part's done. But now what we want to see from NYU is exactly what the plan is, how the layout is, and all that sort of stuff, so that we can discuss that, and whether DOT wants to hear it or not. Perhaps we'll have some feedback for them. Okay, take it away, NYU folks. I don't know who's doing your presentation for you, Gilda.
Yes, hi, Jean, thank you. And thank you, Community Board 6, for giving us this opportunity to present our project and to discuss the programs involved. So I'm going to turn it over to David Resnick, who's one of the leaders in our facilities department, who will discuss the project.
Great. Thanks, Gilda. And thanks, I just echo your thanks to CB6 for having us come in. And we're happy to share with you this project and the work that will be happening along First Avenue. So Jessica, is that you sharing the screen?
It is, yes.
Could you just go to like the full screen slide view?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so just to put it in context before Jessica runs through some of the details of what you'll be seeing on First Avenue. The project that is driving all this work is our Schwartz Healthcare Center, which is on the southern end of our main hospital campus there, just to the north of 30th Street, is being completely renovated. And the goal, and it's been on our agenda for a long time, but the goal is to create a consolidated cardiac care center there. So right now we have some cardiac programs and a mix of other uses that have been, over the last few years, moved out to other ambulatory sites to allow us to create this consolidated cardiac care center, and also to accommodate our growing transplant programs. So NYU Langone has a very, very active transplant program, and we are currently developing, new technologies and increased volumes and so forth in the transplant area. And so this building will become our consolidated cardiac hub, as well as an expanded transplant program. So in order to do that, it involves the full gut renovation of most of the floors of the building. We need to be able to access the interior and get deliveries in and stage the construction from First Avenue. So the first step in that process was to shift the bus stop that was just north of 30th Street and move it a few car lengths up. I think it's about 100 feet or so to the north. So I'm going to hand it over now to Jessica. Actually, can you go, Jessica, to the next slide, please?
Absolutely.
So Jessica McGowan is our project manager and is going to share with you some of the details of the plan. And Jessica, maybe you can walk through the drawing that's up on the screen and describe the work that has now been done by DOT to shift the bus stop down, and then take us through some of the other logistics and staging diagrams.
Absolutely. So thanks, everyone. As David said, my name is Jessica McGowan, and I'm the Senior Project Manager on the HCC project. To give you a little background on how we got to today's presentation, we've worked with our expediter DOT and NYC Transit to relocate the bus stop at 34th Street, as David mentioned. You can see here on the plan in the dashed line where the bus stop was located previously at about 31st Street on First Avenue. And here in the solid red is the new temporary location for the bus stop during our project. So as David mentioned, it's about 100 feet north on First Avenue. And then below is a photo that I think gives a little bit more perspective on the distance that it's moved. So here on the right-hand side is the previous stop location with the sign blocked currently. And then here on the left is the new bus stop location, and also a blow up of the sign for anybody interested in what it says, which is really right outside of our main entrance, which at the moment is where our visitor sign-in and screening takes place for this side of the campus. So it's fairly conveniently located in its new position. Any questions on the slide before I move forward?
Let's, I think it's better if you just finish the presentation rather than going slide by slide. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. The reason for the relocation of the M15 bus stop is to facilitate use of the parking lane outside of HPC for materials loading and unloading for the project. This plan is intended to give you an idea of what to expect from the work outside of HPC in the coming months. So on the right, you'll see two photos. One is of the existing facade prior to project start, and the lower is as it looks today. You can see that we have a fence up that is just temporary. It leaves the minimum required clear sidewalk for pedestrians at the outermost edge of the fencing. And this is installed currently so that we can begin work on the footings and supports for our sidewalk bridge. So the purpose of the sidewalk bridge is to reroute our pedestrian traffic. So currently pedestrians would walk straight here in front of the garage and straight through to our main campus entrance. The new scheme would have a slight jog just to bring people closer to the HPC building and away from the loading and unloading zone at the parking lane at the perimeter. Discussions with DOT and Transit as it relates to this area have been ongoing, so this plan is not yet finalized, and we'll continue to just share updates with you as they become available.
Okay, so is that that's the presentation? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Larry, you have your hand up first, so go ahead.
Thank you. This is wonderful. I've been waiting for years to hear someone make the point that the bus stop should be near the entrance to the hospital. That's where it is now. It was there for many, many years before it had been shifted back to the area by the parking garage where people would illegally park in the bus stop. And it was very difficult to get to the curb. This is excellent, and I hope that it becomes permanent. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that feedback.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
James Wilson.
Okay, Jim.
Listen, you speak about a bridge. Can you describe where that bridge is constructed?
Sure. So it's just a sidewalk bridge. So a sidewalk shelter is similar to what you see over here outside of the OCME office. So it'll pop up a little bit higher for our project and continue across over the garage and in front of the HCC building here. So the garage will be maintained, no entrance or exit will be blocked. It'll just provide pedestrian protection for any work that we're doing in the windows and things like that above.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any other questions from the committee? I don't see any. Brendan, do you have any on your screen?
Nope, I do not have any.
Okay, well, I guess that's pretty much it. We don't know a lot, but we know something. And it seems like people are satisfied with your preparations for this, so that's a good thing. We'll hope
Yes,
that it turns out that way in reality as we go along.
Thank you again for the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Okay, no, thank you guys all for coming. I know this has been a bit of a shuffle thanks to the three-way interaction between you and DOT and us, but I appreciate the perseverance, and I'm glad we finally got you in here and could finally see what is supposed to happen. That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okie doke. Third item on the agenda is the Iberostar Hotel is reopening and they want their loading zone back. So who's here from Iberostar?
Hi, good evening. My name is Brenda Correa, and I'm the general manager for my Iberostar 70 Park Avenue. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, well, take it away.
So back in October, mid-October last year, the DOT came and started removing all the loading zones from Park Avenue. We're located in Park Avenue and 38th Street East. By the time the hotel was closed, but we just opened the 28th of February, and we need the loading zone sign back because we have a lot of trucks and cars for guests, and we don't want to have any disruption to our common guests and also to our suppliers. So I don't know if you can assist me with this.
Okay. Brendan, do you have pictures of the area, I believe, to show people so that they know exactly where we're talking about?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, this Google Maps image shows the loading zone as it once was. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brenda.
Yep.
There's the signage right there. This is from last May.
Correct. And there was also one that is more further down to the 39th Street, which is covered by the tree that they just moved. So it was here beside the tree, was in between the middle tree and the white band that was there, and it was removed as well. It was a blue sign here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the background for this, as Brenda implied, is that the hotel closed down during COVID. They're reopening now, and they want their loading zone back.
Correct.
Are there any questions or concerns from the committee about this? Anne?
Seems reasonable to me. Like, I'm sure. Like, is there some reason not to?
No, that's what I'm asking you guys. If you have any reasons not to, or whether you have reasons to. Yes.
I will make a motion for a resolution if that's what it requires, to have the no standing loading zone sign reinstalled.
Do we have a second?
I second that, Dan.
Okay,
Second.
great. That was B. Okay. So let's take a vote on that then.
Okay. When I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or abstain for cause. B. Disman.
May I ask a question?
Oh, sorry,
before-
Brendan. Larry's hand shot up just as you were starting that. Go ahead, Larry.
Okay.
Just a clarification for the language of the resolution. Do we know what the signage said prior to it being removed?
Yeah, because it's on the sign, Larry. It's on the sign in the picture. It's right there.
Hey, it's Colleen. It would say no standing hotel loading zone.
Okay, and Colleen, that's acceptable to DOT?
Yes, it's standard. We just asked for the management to come back again to present this so that we can get something from the board, which is what they have done. So yes, it's
Thank
fine.
you. I'm ready for the proceeding with the vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Brendan, let's pick it up.
So when I call your name, please say whether you're in favor, opposed, abstain, or abstain for cause. B. Disman.
Still in favor.
Charles Fernandez.
In favor.
Andrew Gross.
In favor.
Phil Napolitano. Oh, Phil's not here. Matt Roberts.
In favor.
Gene Santoro.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Ann Seligman.
In favor.
Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
Ronnie White.
In favor.
And James Wilson.
Favor.
Okay. The resolution passes with 10 in favor and nobody opposed or abstaining.
Okay, so now all we need is someone to write it, right? Any volunteers?
Correct.
It's pretty straightforward.
I'll write it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ronnie. Doing the minutes and writing. Is there anyone else so that Ronnie doesn't have to do double duty who could take this on, or?
And just so everyone's aware, for whoever takes on the task of writing the resolution, with full board being Wednesday, we will need a very quick turnaround. If we can get the resolution in tomorrow, that would be ideal. But yeah, a quick turnaround will be required.
Okay, Brendan. Okay.
Is that okay with you, Ronnie? Can you manage that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. So we will have Ronnie write the notes for tonight and write this reso. Good job. Double duty, not easy. Okay. Moving along. And thank you, Brenda, for showing up and presenting the case. Okay. Once more.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Once more, I'm going to kick the can on Grand Central down the road because I do want Phil to be involved in this, and he's not able to come tonight. And there's no big hurry because, as you'll hear a bit in the chair's report, DOT is stalling on every project that pretty much exists around New York right now because of various reasons: regime change, new appointees, hiring, massive stuff like the street dining stuff. So they're pretty clogged up. So nothing much is happening. So losing a month on talking about Grand Central is not going to cost us anything. So let's move along. Having said that, to the DOT report. Colleen, you're on.
Hey,
Welcome.
it's Colleen Chattergoon from City DOT. The only thing that I'd like to report on is that we're putting together a milling and paving season. So if you know of any streets that are in need of milling and paving, please send that location or the list to Brendan, and Brendan can forward that to me and we'll review it. Other than that, we are still putting together guidelines for the outdoor dining. As soon as we have something, we will come to the community boards and update and give a presentation to all of the community boards in Manhattan.
Okay, one of our viewers here is asking, what about sidewalks?
In terms of repairing sidewalks?
I imagine that's what his question is, yeah.
So the property owner is responsible for the maintenance and repair of their sidewalks.
That's right. So those are the people you have to get on.
Yes, and if there is a particular location, feel free to send it to the board office and I can check to see if it was inspected or if we issued a violation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Unfortunately, it may be city property, Mr. McLeod, but the fact is that that's the way the law works. The city is not responsible for maintaining the sidewalks. The owner, landlord, whoever is. Okay, and now I know we have at least one query about the bus stop at 33rd and 3rd, if that member of the public is here for that.
Yes.
Yes, I am Bob Brewer and I want to speak on that, please.
Okay, please, you've got 3 minutes, so make it succinct and on point.
Okay, the issue is that 34th Street bus stop on 3rd Avenue, where the M101, 102, and 103 bus stops. For decades, it was located on the block between 34th and 33rd Street, close to 34th Street, and the buses traveling along there. In 2018, it was closed because of construction on 3rd Avenue that blocked the bus stop. The construction ended last summer, but the bus stop was not reopened because in 2020, 6 restaurants built dining structures in that bus stop area. So we haven't had for 4 years a bus stop operating there. We had just 31st Street and 37th Street as the only operating bus stops that we could use. 2 weeks ago, the 32nd Street bus stop opened, the one between 33rd and 32nd, with no notice, by the way. And the buses are stopping there. But we don't know if that's temporary or permanent. But it is not a satisfactory solution. It's not convenient to many of the riders in the area, particularly the people north of 34th Street. It's not convenient to the people who are using the SBS bus on 34th Street. And it's not convenient to the people using the Queens buses that come through the tunnel and they want to transfer. So there's no reason that bus stop should not be restored to its original location. There are 6 dining structures now in the street, which should never have been there, but they are going to have to come down with the open dining new legislation that's the city council has approved. 3 of them are already closed. One was removed after City Dot told all of them to take down their structures, but there are 2 still operating. And I'm asking the community board to press this issue so that they're removed now and they're not replaced with dining areas, but the bus stop is restored to its convenient place. It's a hassle. It's really difficult for many people, such as who are elderly and handicapped, such as me and my wife. And that was the best stop. And this new stop, a block south, it makes for a longer and more difficult walk for many people and for many people transferring from other modes.
All right, thank you. Thank you for those observations. Colleen, what do you have to respond?
So the stop was relocated because of the outdoor dining. That's absolutely correct. But again, when we review the whole program in the upcoming future, it's possible that a lot of most of these restaurants may not qualify under the outdoor dining program. So, we don't know yet. It's possible, if they're all going to be issued permits to operate, as how they are right now. So it's likely that the bus stop will go back. Again, it's too soon to say that, but that's why the stop was relocated to a temporary, site.
Okay. Any other observations or questions from the committee about this? Yes, Mr. Breuer, make it brief. Oh, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I speak. Okay, thank you. I live at 32nd Street and 3rd Avenue, and I've had an opportunity to keep up with the changes in bus transportation. We currently have a stop at 33rd Street for 101, 102, 103. We should keep that. It's an excellent stop. We have a stop at 31st Street and 3rd Avenue for 101, 102, 103. It's a very busy intersection. We should not have a bus stop there. We have another stop at 29th Street for 101, 102, 103. And if you have that stop and the stop at 33rd, you have enough to continue excellent and safe transportation for pedestrians on 3rd Avenue. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Ann, did you have your hand up?
I did, and I think, I sent you an email this weekend with pictures and like reality check on that location. But I think, James and Robert have expressed well what the conditions on the ground are.
Okay, so, yes, Mr. Breuer.
Again, I just restate, I think the 32nd Street, 33rd Street location is not as convenient for many, many people in the area. It, particularly people north, because it's a block farther south. Not only the residents of the area, but also the people transferring. And it's a block, it's too much. And there should never have been restaurant structures in a bus stop area. I don't know of any other in the city where they were allowed to come into a bus stop area. And then we have to accommodate that, frankly. This is, as someone else earlier stated, this is a public space and it's necessary for a transportation function that serves many, many, many people.
I understand your point and appreciate it. And certainly I would ask Colleen at DOT to look into it further and pursue the lines of query that she suggested, see what's going on in there about the bus stop, about the restaurant structures, because all this stuff is in motion. And quite frankly, we have like no control and very little input into a lot of this, besides the fact that two of the committee members stated clearly that they're pretty satisfied, I believe, with the arrangements as they exist. And they can be improved, obviously. Nobody's saying not.
I'm not, don't
You're not.
count me as one of those.
Okay, because it was unclear, because you agreed with Jim, and that's what Jim said. So that's why I was.
I was just stating that I had provided information about the current status of the street and have pictures, like I can show you what it looks like, but I didn't. It's better than it was, but I wouldn't say it's okay.
No, I didn't say that either, but I understand the point. Thank you. But there's not really any place for us to stand in here about what's to be done, except to urge Colleen at DOT to please go back in and try to get this unsnarled as quickly as possible, because whether it's the right spot or the wrong spot, and whether you can argue about exactly where it is or not, certainly that block is 2 blocks around there actually, and north of 34th Street too, are a mess with construction and various other things. It's not just the restaurant sheds. It's a bottleneck there. So it needs to be unsnarled. Something needs to be done to at least open up the bus stop so people are aware it's there if they don't know, just to start with. Okay, Colleen, we appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah, and Brendan has been really good in following up with me about this issue. So
Great.
It's on my radar.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Yep, I'm in communication with Colleen about this.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, and thank you, Robert Breuer. He looks like he already took off, but appreciate the input. Okay, chair's report. Oh, Ann, you've got your hand up.
I do. I have another question for Colleen. She's still here, right?
She's still here, yes. So
Still here.
Yeah, so yesterday I was coming off the FDR Drive at 49th Street, and there was a stop sign like before you even make the turn onto 49th Street, which I think is a new stop sign. It certainly kind of took me aback, and it's not. I looked it up on like Street View, and it's not on the Google Street View. I'm not quite sure where it is. It's not. We had asked for years for a stop sign for crossing, a pedestrian crossing, and a stop sign where the playground, where people are crossing from the playground and the parking lot, and it's not there. It's at a different location. The only other vehicles you would be stopping for there are cars coming from the UN parking lot, which is, pretty much closed 99% of the time. So I don't understand why it's there, and like kind of why it wasn't.
I'm looking at I'm looking at our list and of recent stop control installations. So this is not on the list. That's been there for a while, that stop sign.
No. Whether it's been there, I mean, I have probably not exited from there in 2 months, but it's in a strange place that I believe is more dangerous because cars are going to back up on the FDR drive, and I'm not sure what you're stopping for there. Like, it's not after you've made the turn onto 49th Street.
Okay. Are you going to be in the area anytime soon? Maybe you can take a photo from me, or I don't know.
Yes, and you know what? I actually,
send me a screenshot.
if Brendan doesn't mind, when the meeting ends, I've got a Google map picture pulled up that shows where it is not. And if Brendan doesn't mind, when this is over and we stop recording, I can just show you that way. Brendan, can you stand doing that? Jean, is that okay with you?
It's okay with me if it's okay with Brendan.
Yeah,
It, like literally, it will like. I mean, I've got a Google map picture showing you where there's now a stop sign where there wasn't.
The absence of stop sign turned into the presence of stop sign. Okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So why don't you do that
Thank
after?
you.
Yeah,
do that
thanks.
after the meeting.
Some panelized markings there, so I'll keep the board posted on that.
Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, just.
But if you can, Colleen, if you can hang out, like literally, I'll get it. I'll show you the picture and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay, and just please CC me on the correspondence.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Larry, your hand is up.
Yes, these are a couple of items of old business for Colleen. Should I wait till after your report or do it now?
You can add.
Just do it now. If it's what are these old items of old business?
Okay, the first item of old business is something that I've been discussing for several months with Brendan, but it relates to the L train work that was concluded several years ago now, and the bus stops along 14th Street. 7 changes were made, and everything looks good in the field, other than the homeless living in the shelters, but that's a separate issue. The problem is with the mapping. The city coordinates with DOT through Do It, and the MTA also with respect to the location of the bus stops. Nothing has been restored to its pre-construction locations. All of the temporary stops continue to show up on Google Maps and on the MTA's own maps, and then these could all be corrected in one fell swoop. And I don't know if DOT needs to initiate that. What do you say, Colleen? How does this get done?
So you mentioned that there are 7 bus stops. Is that what it is? That the map isn't updated?
That there were 4 original stops and then 3 changed locations. That's how I get to 7. So basically, we've got to go back to the original positions.
Okay, you know, if Jean doesn't mind, if you can send me the location of those stops, like where they're at, like if it's on, you know, on a street and the cross street, that would be helpful. And I can find that when we will update those maps.
Okay, as it is, you've erected bus shelters where the bus stops are now today in the correct original positions.
Okay.
And Brendan, if you've got my correspondence, and I've written to 311, I've written to 511, perhaps you can pass that along. If you can't find it, get in touch with me and we'll get this to you, Colleen.
Yeah, that would be great.
Larry, please just concentrate on where the stops are now and what your asks are about them. And CC me on the correspondence, please.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because the temporary stops that don't exist are there on the map.
I understand that. No, I understand that you have a history of this, but you just make it a succinct email about this, the stops that you're focusing on, what needs to be done, as you just did, and send it to Colleen and CC me. We don't need to go back in history too far.
These are all the stops at Avenue. These are at Avenue A and Avenue B.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, good.
Good deal.
Okay,
Thank
and
you.
the second old item, Gene, you'll also be interested.
Maybe.
What is the status of the Avenue C extension north of 18th Street for the bike path?
Okay, so I know we've been talking to DDC about this, and DDC did come to the community board, I think to another committee, and they were updating them. But I'll follow up with the DDC liaison to find out the latest. But I know that we've been working with them, on the extension. I can get you some info tomorrow.
Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Larry. And now, Chair's report is going to be very simple. I just want to remind everybody that Brian is running a task force about the street co-naming. This is something that is going to be on the agenda again next month because, oddly enough, the requests are starting to come in. I don't know whether it's the lightning of COVID or just spring, but whatever's happening, people are starting to get interested in co-naming streets again. So we need to look at this now. I've sent all of you, and Brian has it too, a draft reso that is not meant to be constrictive or proscriptive. It's simply a compilation of things that I put together from various community boards and other entities that are interested in this that suggested like what they're doing. And I pulled that together so that the task force and the committee could accept or reject parts or all of it. But we need to get going on this, and next month is going to be the time where we focus on it. So I'd appreciate it if everybody would get it together to read that, react to it, and please submit their reactions to Brian ASAP so that he can come to the committee next month with something that's at least roughly worked out that we can discuss and then move forward on. Really appreciate that if we can get that done. And that's it, unless there are any questions. I don't see any. So, okay. That means we're looking for a motion. Brian.
Motion to adjourn.
Terrific.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. All right. Listen, thank you folks once more for showing up and doing this. We don't know yet, as far as I know, Brendan can correct me, what the status on Zoom meetings is going to be. We'll all be hearing about that, I'm sure, at the last minute, because that's what happened the last time. It seems to be how the state government is operating on this. But once we find out, we'll all know, and then we'll have to scramble and figure out what to do. That's going to be quite a burden on the office, given the lack of spaces to meet in. But hopefully going forward, we'll see some resolution to this problem, even if they only extend the Zoom meetings temporarily for a couple of months. But we have no idea. Yeah.
Yep. To be continued.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have more. ...